Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? No, no, no sound. Yes, okay. You can hear me. Okay. So anyway, let's pretend like that's a couple minutes didn't happen. Here we are. All right. Cool. My God. My God. Okay. Cool. My God. Here we are. Oh my. Whoa. Okay. So yeah. Good. Good morning. Good evening. What a day. And I'm sure you can imagine that this is not the first thing. I've been messing around with this for an hour because other things went wrong too. The keyboard stopped working. I had to change keyboards. And yeah, wow. Okay. So anyway, welcome everyone. Somebody kap tukon, tukti from other countries. Yeah. So here we are. Yes, we do hear you now. Good. YouTube's working. Great. All right. All right. My God. Shongao. Bottoms up. Okay, so it's almost the end of May now, and okay. So over here in this part of the world, we're actually going to be opening our center here, like in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, who knows? They're working pretty hard to get it done, so it's going to be amazing. And really, it's going to take a lot of my time. Yeah, more time. Anyway, so and I wanted to remind everyone that we're gonna have this our new. Let me see. Let me make this. Let me remind you all what we're doing. So, just as a reminder, please everyone realize that there's going to be a change coming up. I don't know the exact date. It's going to be very, like a week or two or something like that. Who knows? But we're just trying. We want to make sure everything's right, so it's not like this, where I'm always having problems. Anyway, so there's going to be 3 groups. Remember, we're going to change this to 3 groups, and we're still going to do this Sunday Night Live because it's kind of like the foundation of it all. So we're going to keep that, but there's going to be an inner circle where we can talk about because as you all know, there's questions coming from everywhere, and I don't get a chance to answer them, and I'm also not getting a chance to. I'm not getting a chance to answer all the questions. So it's going to be divided into 3 groups: the health and healing group, the parasite guidance group, and the CFC guidance group, also known as that zodiac sign for that we talk about this all the time. But I have to clarify, just in case there are people who are watching for the first time. Okay, just to remind you that there's no Sagittarius, no Gemini, no Leo, and no Cancer inside of anybody, right? And no Capricorn or Libra, Virgo, Aries, what else? There's a few more in there. Pisces, no Pisces, none of that. Okay, so what's going on inside of our bodies? All of us, by the way, have some fermenting cells, and that fermentation is a fundamental primary mechanism of energy production that single cell organisms and multicellular organisms such as us can utilize to produce energy. Because why? Energy is number one. Okay, energy equals life. And by the way, I was talking to someone yesterday, and just what really astounds me, blows my mind, is that light, which is substanceless, right? There's no substance. to light, right? And it has no physical qualities. It has no mass, no charge, anything. However, somehow it gets converted by plants into the foundation of physicality, which are electrons. And electrons have mass, but it's quite small, and they have negative charge, which means they carry energy. So it's a way for mass to carry energy. And but when you look at electrons, you say, "Well, this is mass," but yes, it is. But actually, it is the mechanism by which energy is utilized by mass, and we wind up having something called biology. So it's really quite fundamental. So we could call electrons as the children of light, right? So light begets electrons, and electrons allow biological life. And as long as those electrons are flowing through you, you're alive. And the more that are flowing, the more alive you are. And when the line is flat, it's over. Okay. So that's what life is. And so what all cells need to do, first of all, before anything, is get whatever they need from the environment in the forms of nutrients and gases and put it together to produce energy. Okay. And so the basic fundamental way of doing that is fermentation. Fermentation is also called glycolysis. and it's when a glucose molecule is um, broken down and the energy is taken from it. That energy is captured by uh, a molecule called ADP, and it then becomes ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which carries electrons. So it's the carrier for all, and that's all biological systems, right? All biological systems require ATP. Okay, it's the energy carrier, right? And this here is what is this? This is yeah, TikTok. Okay, so anyway, so we're multicellular organisms, and we have a very efficient way of producing energy through these little organelles inside of our cells called mitochondria, and they take 6 oxygens and 1 glucose, and they produce 38 ATP. That's a good yield. 1 glucose, 38 ATP. When a good percentage of them get knocked out because you live on this planet in the 21st century, and you have a confluence of toxicities that knock them out. The cell, number one, got to make energy, so it starts to ferment. And in order to ferment, since it's very you only get 2 ATPs for every glucose instead of 38. So that's very inefficient, which means you need 19 times more glucose, more fuel. So the cell has to go through a bunch of changes to be able to successfully uh, um, survive, to provide enough energy, right? How much energy does a cell need? It's about 56, 57 micromoles per liter. You don't need to know what those units mean, but that's what it is. All cells need it in order to function in our body. And so if you want to maintain that energy requirement and you're fermenting, you've got to make some changes in the operating system of the cell, and that's what happens. So the operating system changes, um, and by silencing, turning off this gene because we don't need that, it uses too much energy. We need more insulin receptors. Let's upregulate that. We need so all these things are changed, completely different. Same cell, same DNA, and all that, but it is now expressing different genes, and now it can live doing that. But it's kind of a really, I mean, although it's the only thing to do, so which is why it does it, it doesn't have a long term. Uh, it's not sustainable. And anyway, so these cells are now they're chronically fermenting cells. And so that's what we call it, you guys, if you're new to this group. Okay. So we call what they call cancer Which, if I'm saying, if we're gonna use an astrological term, let's pick something that sounds better, like Sagittarius, Libra, Capricorn. It sounds better than the Cancer. Why? Because Cancer has been, there's billions and billions of dollars spent so that when you hear that word, you think death. And that's what they want you to think, because when you think death, you are so afraid that you will give in and agree to do things that you would never do, right? And it's called the standard of scare, which is what they're very good at. Okay. They scare you to complying, acquiescing to do anything. Works. So we don't want to use that word because that's their word, and it's not true, by the way. It doesn't mean death at all. It doesn't. It just means I gotta change my life so that I'm not so toxic. How do I do that? Oh, I guess all I have to do is do what all the creatures on earth do. What do the creatures on earth do? They live their lives in accordance with their biological requirements, right? So frogs are not going to really start packing up their bags and marching out and moving to the desert. They're going to stay in the pond. And if they're in the pond, everything they need is there, and they're going to be the most optimally functioning frogs. Right. All right. We are not that smart. So what did we do? I don't know. Thousands of years ago, we decided that, you know what? The tropics, subtropics provide everything we need. But that's not enough. Let's go. So we migrated, and we went to places where there were no plants, and there were only, and then we started eating animals and all that stuff, and then animals we didn't like eating dead animals. We didn't like eating live animals. So we started using fire, and we started to heat them up, and we changed it up. We even changed the name. We called it beef and pork and nuggets and stuff like that. And then we started, yeah. So everything kind of changed because we left our niche, our biological niche. So there we are. We wind up, some of us living in Norway, some of us living in Antarctica. I mean, it's crazy. We'll go everywhere, right? Even though it's extremely uncomfortable, and it's really hard to satisfy your biological needs. So when your biological needs are not being satisfied, whether you are a dog or a horse or a human or a fly, then you have got to adapt or die. And those adaptations are what? Adaptations. They're physiological adaptations so that you can maintain functionality in spite of the fact that you're not having your needs met. And those adaptations have been named diseases that you have to get rid of by taking a poison. I mean, as hard as it might be to comprehend that, that's exactly what we have been hypnotized into believing. Not hypnotized. What's happened is we live in that conceptual framework, that paradigm, from the moment we're born, before we're born, when we're in the uterus. Okay, right? Because as you know, according to the medical world, pregnancy is basically a disease. Why do I say that? Well, because when you get pregnant, what do you got to do? First thing, go to the doctor. Right? So pregnancy is a disease, go to the doctor, and then they're going to be very careful, and you're going to be born in a hospital, in a controlled setting. Right? So when that baby comes out, what are we going to do to it right away? We're going to put stuff in its eye. We're going to give it shots. We're going to all sorts of, like, welcome to the world, kid. So so that's what we do. And so we're born in the hospital, right? And we got and then we finally get to go home after we got all these shots and stuff like that. All these and we're separated from our mother, right? Our mother, we're put in a room with other babies that were just born, and we're separated from the mother because I don't even know what the reasoning is, but it's madness. So finally, you go home and you're doing okay. Let's say you're doing okay. Your mom's breastfeeding you, all that. And then they say, well, listen, it's time for your well baby checkup. What does that mean? That means you're going to take your baby to the doctor, even though it's okay. Why? Well, we don't even ask that. Well, we think it's because the doctor is going to do something to prevent the future of what? Diseases. Oh. So you mean, doctor, I'm gonna get, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, health is not possible. Disease is inevitable. And so therefore, you've got to do all you can to prevent disease. And we now know that the way to prevent disease, aren't you lucky you were born in the 21st century or the 20th century? We know that to prevent disease, we need to inject you with poisons. Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. And we've got study after study to prove that injecting you with poisons will protect you from getting diseases. Well, if that were true, that means after the hospital should be empty, right? I mean, if doctors knew what they were doing, the hospital should be empty, right? No. There's standing room only. You got to wait. But I thought, yeah. All right. So, I mean, if you ever think about what we're doing, what we've accepted as being the way things are is unacceptable, to say the least. Okay, so you get these injections, and because you're healthy, and pretty soon, guess what? Now you're not healthy. Plus, when you go home, what are they feeding you? What are they feeding you? Well, I get some of it was once food. What's he talking about? What's this freak talking about? What's that? Oh, I gotta talk to you guys about. Some of you made comments, and I've got to respond to them because I can't read them while I'm doing this. All that, but I read them. I read them after, and I'm shocked. Some of you guys. Anyway, so anyway, real simply, let's call food something. Let's define food so that we're talking about the same thing. I define food as that which, when ingested, is able to be converted into flesh, blood, or energy. And we'll define poison as that which, when ingested, must be eliminated because it cannot be converted into any of those requirements. And so we see that, so we have waste, we have feces, we have urine, we have sweat, we have all this stuff coming out of us. This is stuff that was not able to be incorporated into the body to be considered as food. So what are we feeding our kids? Well, if you've seen baby food, yeah, you have. It is little bottles of mashed up stuff, and it's liquid, and it's been heated with fire so that it's dead. There's no enzymes in it, and it's baby food. You know what the result has been, over feeding people non-human food all this time, is that our jaws are actually getting smaller because our masseter muscles are not big enough. Well, what's wrong with that? Small jaws are cute, aren't they? Yeah, really cute. I guess. And but you know what happens? Our teeth get crowded and they don't fit. We got teeth coming out over here, and then they growing in sideways. We got to go get to the dentist to pull them out because our jaws aren't big enough. Because why? Because we're not eating human food. I mean, this is how we are born. And then, by the way, we continue going to see doctors who ensure that we're going to get sick. And eventually, so we're going to the hospital all the time, or the doctor's office, all throughout our lives, right? Everyone, usually in an urban setting in modern planet Earth, Most people have a car, or they have, of course, they've got a cell phone, uh, place to live, and they have a doctor. You got to have a doctor, right? Got to have a doctor. What? You don't have a doctor? What's wrong with you? Nothing. That's why I don't have a doctor. Huh? Anyway, forget logic, right? You've all learned that logic is irrelevant nowadays, completely irrelevant. Doesn't matter. 1 and 1 does not equal 2. You know that, right? And by the way, if you want to change your genes, you can. That's what they call it. They think, they actually think you can. Well, you can modify them with what's that called? Oh, mRNA. Yeah, yeah. You could modify your genes, but can you change the fundamental fact that you are either predominantly XX or XY? Can you change that? Is there any way to change that? The answer is no. What was that? No. Cannot change your genes. You cannot become XY if you're XX, and you cannot become XX if you're XY. Cannot. Cannot. You can change your appearance. You can put this over here and that over there and just over there. But you didn't change your genes. And I don't want to get kicked off the TikTok, so I won't even tell you what I'm trying to tell you. But I think you know what I'm trying to say. You can't be a whatever they call that because you can't change your genes. Anyway, so we go through all this and then we die in the hospital. So we die getting swallowed up by machines in the ICU. All right. So life has become an illness. And you know what I noticed the other day? It really kind of, it was like, you have these moments where you go, wow, it's epiphany, awe moments. I realized that, do you know how we humans, modern day humans, how we gauge the level or quality of caring that another person has for us? Think about it. If someone wants to show you that they care, they're going to, the best thing for you to do is to get sick and see how they treat you when you're sick. That's really how we judge it. When I was sick, when I was in the hospital, they didn't visit. So it's the degree to which you pamper illness. I'm serious. Just think about it. It was epiphany for me. Anyway, so let's get back on with the announcements. So anyway, so we're going to have 3 groups, and the groups are going to be the health and healing group, which is going to be, we're going to talk about everything about healing and health, right? What does health mean? How, is it healthy to fast? Is it healthy to eat? And the big argument, I got to talk, I got to make that thing. I've got some people. You should have seen the comments from last week. Oh my God, you guys! I thought you guys were. I didn't know. I was shocked. I don't know what he's talking. What is he talking about? Eating, vegetables and plants. I've been eating only dead animals, and I'm. Okay, because Lodi's crazy, right? This guy's crazy. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is that for sure. I'm going to show you the research because you got to see research, right? It doesn't make sense to you that if I just explain to you our anatomy and physiology, and you see that our anatomy and physiology was not designed for that, that's not enough. Not enough. Look, you're trying to tell me that just because I have lungs, I can't breathe underwater. What's wrong with you? Come on. You mean to tell me because I don't have wings, I really can't fly without any kind of equipment or anything? Are you crazy? I mean that's how okay. So I'm just saying, our bodies, believe it or not, like if you believe it, it's not a matter of believing. Then what I would suggest to anybody who's in any doubt is go to school or get some books and read and understand uh, biology. Okay, what are animals versus plants? Figure out what they are. You'll learn, and then find out. Oh, there are all kinds. There's like a fish, and there's amphibians, there's reptiles, and there's mammals. Oh, okay. So okay, and then figure out what are the distinctions. How are they distinguished? And then understand that the anatomy or the form of all different organs and their mouths and their ear, everything uh, is designed for them to eat, right? Because eating is the fundamental thing that there's two things that all creatures must do. They must eat and procreate, make new, have babies, eat and procreate. That's it. Because eating is exchange of energy, and procreation is continuing the species. These are the main fundamental functions of all organisms. All right. Um, and by the way, if we lived in the equator, in the equatorial zones, subequatorial zones, satisfying our biological requirements for the day would take an hour because it's all here. So what would you do? You'd have lots of times to do other things. Like what? Play music, dance, enjoy, go for walks, swim, experience being in the flesh, have fun, wonderful relationships and discussions with people. Yeah. And yeah, something that we don't do anymore. We go on vacation to relax. And you know what relaxing is to a lot of people? Lying on the beach wearing sunglasses. You gotta be wearing sunglasses. You gotta look cool regardless. All right. You're gonna lie on the beach and you're gonna have a very cool bathing suit or swimming suit. Um, and you're gonna put this oil all over yourself and you're gonna lie there and you're gonna burn in the sun. And this is yeah. But other people say nah. And there's other people say no, they go scuba diving, they go doing activities and stuff like that. But basically, you realize that when we go on vacation, it's usually to get out of the crazy modern world and to get into nature, get back to nature. In other words, get away from get away from the as much artificiality as you can. Well, that's for some people, but there are other people who say no, 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 no. We're going to go on vacation to another big urban city, and those are So I want to go to Paris. I haven't seen Paris, or I want to on Istanbul. Yeah, and look, I'm not saying anything negative about any place. I love. I mean, Istanbul is pretty amazing. I mean, it's probably, in Turkey, kind of that's like really the Babylon. I mean, that's like where things started, right? Eden is somewhere below there, just below there, in a place called Iraq, or it was. Eden was. So I love it over there. And then Paris. Well, Paris used to be cool. I mean, I loved it way back uh, when it was the only place you'd walk down the street and see Louis Vuitton and all that sort of thing, because that was the Champs Elysees. Now, now I can go to any mall in even Nebraska. I'm sure. I don't know. Is that true? You Nebraskans. Anyway, I'm sure everywhere you go, you can now see the Champs Elysees in your mall. Yeah. So anyway, so Paris used to be cool. Italy was definitely cool. I mean, think of it. You go to Rome, and the relationship between Rome and Istanbul with I mean, it's fantastic. I'm not saying it's not fantastic, but what we like to do is get to nature, and that's where we belong. That's our home. We are. Don't. I know it's might be hard to believe, but we are natural. We are nature. Okay. And we are subject to what? Natural laws. Meaning, you step out of a window, you will fall at 32 feet per second squared. What is that? I forget how many meters per second squared. You're going to fall no matter what. And by the way, can't pray your way out of that one. You can't chant your way out of that. You can't meditate your way out of that. You can't do anything. Because why? Natural laws exist because they are necessary. Okay, so. So, in other words, if I plant tomatoes, I'm only going to get tomatoes. I can't get cucumbers no matter how hard I negotiate. Okay. So, therefore, I get that. Okay. And I get that. And a lot of people said it like, what's his name? Who's the guy that said, as ye sow, so shall you reap? It's on the tip of my tongue. I think you all know. And what do they call it in the other side, or like India? They call it karma. Anyway, so what you do, okay, so therefore, if I'm planting Twinkies and I'm planting KFC and I'm planting cigarettes and I'm planting all this stuff in here, I'm going to have a harvest because that's the nature of nature. All right. So what happens to my body is not just bad luck, as doctors say, or genetics. It is the consequence of uh, what was given to it, what we put in it, what we planted in. This is our garden, and we are the gardeners, and we will have a harvest regardless of whether we know it or not, or like it or not. We will have a harvest. Okay, so anyway, I got off on that, but anyway, so health and healing will be the one group. That'll be the fundamental group, and we're going to talk about everything about health and healing. The other one's going to be parasite guidance, and in that group, I'm going to restrict it to parasites. Okay, so all the other stuff, let's leave for the other groups, but let's just talk about parasites. So we now have a forum to talk about parasites. And do we have a lot of parasites going on the planet? Oh, I mean, things when I first started talking about it, I was talking about parasites and the relationship to CFCs because that's a big one, and I'm going to go over that. But what I'm finding out from all you is that it's a major problem. So okay, so we'll talk about that, and we're going to have a show, but it's going to be spontaneous questions. You're not going to send them in, right? And we'll have these kinds of things lives, and then we'll also have I'll be putting on content, and anyway, it'll be worth it. It's going to be like let's figure out what's going on with parasites and what do I have and how do we take care of it. That's going to be that. Then finally, the other group is the CFC group, guidance group, right? Which is we're only going to talk about CFCs. We're not going to talk about things that are unrelated, but almost everything is, right? That's the problem. Yeah. But we want to talk specifically about CFCs. And so I'm going to, hopefully that's going to be, and you're going to be spontaneous questions. And I hope everyone is comfortable in sharing their stuff with the other people on, because we're going to be, that'll be the time where you can, say, I have this thing growing here, and right? Because normally I can't. We don't have the time to. Neither is it the place, the context to get into someone's personal condition, but we will use it as sort of a group consult, but not really. Not really. But anyway, that'll be the place to talk about those things. So we're going to talk about CFCs and everything about CFCs. All right. So it's going to be great. And then we'll still have the Sunday Night Live where you send in questions. On those, you're going to be, we'll be asking them spontaneously, and I'll be talking about something. And then we're also going to have other, content and like videos and things for you to read and all that. All right. Because I really want to, my goal is to educate, to teach, yeah. I want you to. All right. So now, yeah, you guys are all helping each other. That's great. What is a CFC, Joey? CFC, I just said, it is a chronically fermenting cell that is called by the rest of the world as cancer. And we don't like the word cancer because cancer is a zodiac sign. It has nothing to do with what's going on in your body. And when you hear the word, it cripples you emotionally. It gives you a frontal lobotomy. You no longer have access to your prefrontal cortex. You no longer can make rational decisions. So first of all, it doesn't communicate the truth of what's going on, and number two, it has too much of a psycho-emotional response, which then affects your immune system, and there's no way you can heal. So we might as well call it what it is, chronically fermenting cells. And if you understand what it is, that's giving you a mechanism, mechanistically, of a way of looking at it. And you say, well, okay, so let me just change. Why is it fermenting? Oh, because okay, let me just. Okay, so it gives you back your rationality. Okay, that's why we use it. Okay, so Joey, that's what it is. Chronically fermenting cell. Now, so go to drlodi.com, drlodi.com, and go down, get into the waiting list for the inner circle so you can find out when it is. And we're going to be starting those. They're going to be fantastic. Okay. Really great. So as you know, right now, this live is on everything we can be on. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble. And those are all Dr. Thomas Lodi. Dr. Thomas Lodi. And then we're on X, which is Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. Because I don't know, because I had another account with them, or did I? Yeah, I guess. And I couldn't use it again, or I don't know. So whatever. All right. So, and then all of these are recorded and saved, and they're on there, so you can see if you miss it or anything like that. So, all right, and I want to start answering questions. Okay, and then. All right, so that's it. So let me just talk about you know, I think it was a video, one of those short things that was taken, for TikTok and Instagram stuff, where they take short, little clips out of the live, and I was talking about the problem with opiates. I hope you guys are listening. Whoever you were who got really angry at me, and you guys were angry. You were saying opiates saved lives. What's he talking about? I don't know, it saved my mother or me or whatever it was. And what's he saying, that it decreases your pain threshold? That's BS. There's no evidence against. Okay, so let me just clarify once again for everybody. I will never ever say anything that is not research evidence based that I haven't read. All right. Now, and if I do, for example, or even if I'm talking about astrology, I can talk about it because I've read about it a lot. I can do it. If I'm talking about anything like esoteric stuff, it's because I've read about it. So, I don't just make things up. So I don't lie. There's no reason to lie, because the hardest thing in the world is to find the truth. Right. And that's all I'm looking for. And I just don't have life's really short. Believe me, when you get to my age, you realize, what happened? Here I am. How did this happen? Right. And I keep looking in the mirror and say, who the heck is that guy? Right. And yeah, that's what happened. Gravity and toxicity together. Um, so, this thing about opiate. Okay, so the reason I don't, what I said about opiates is absolutely true. I did not make it up. I promise you. Okay, so that somebody was really angry and says, "There's no proof. There's no. What's he talking about? That it lowers your pain threshold, meaning that which wasn't painful yesterday is painful today. So in other words, it doesn't really help with pain. It makes you not care about the pain a little bit, and it also suppresses natural killer cells. So it suppresses. Oh my God, these guys were mad. So I hope you're listening. All right. And I want you to go to the anesthesia. The annals of anesthesia. article was suppression of human natural killer cells by different classes of opioids. Okay. And then there was another one for the people that didn't think that it can reduce reduce the pain threshold. Um, is that there was it does. There's a phenomenon known as opioid-induced hyperalgesia. Okay, now hyper means more, algesia refers to pain. So a pain medicine is an analgesic and negates, gets rid of pain. Okay, so if you are getting numb, it's hypoalgesia. If you're a lot of pain, it's hyperalgesia. Hyper, increased pain. All right. So there's a phenomenon known as opioid induced hyperalgesia, which they call OIH. Of course, they have to acronym it. And they define it as it is the paradoxical development of reduced analgesia, that is, reduced pain, and increased sensitivity to painful stimuli that occur after chronic administration of opioids. It is often preceded by the phenomenon of tolerance to opioids. It is a complex phenomenon involving neuronal nerves, non-neuronal means other kinds of cells, and immune mechanisms in the spinal cord and the brain. Okay, and this was studied by many, many people. Okay. And the process involves both peripheral, that means nerves out here, and central, that means brain and spinal cord, sensitization with overexpression of nocioreceptive cytokines and chemokines. What the heck does that mean? Okay, nocioreceptive. Nocio refers to, again, there's another root that refers to pain. So a nocioreceptor would be a receptor you have in your body that is able to detect damage and it's pain. So okay, so what it does is it has overexpression. Otherwise, we start having more nocioreceptors from opiates, more nocioreceptors that are producing chemicals, and chemicals produced by cells, which is cyto, cyto is cell, cytokines is chemicals. So cytokines are chemicals from those cells are being produced. Okay. And then there's other epigenetic changes. This is well published. Okay. So what they're calling it is a counter-adaptive change. And what does that mean? That means it's counter to what you're hoping for. You're giving an opiate to reduce pain, but you're actually increasing it. So these counter-adaptive changes lead to a new state of equilibrium or allostasis with irreversible changes that may be present, that may present vulnerability in the subsequent use of opioids, meaning they're not going to help again, right? Now, opioids, the excitatory effects, it causes hyperalgesia, increased pain, tolerance during the post-operative period, which is when they usually use opiates. After an operation, everyone is given opiates. All right. So even before they did the formal studies, and they were published regarding post-operative and peri, meaning around at the time of surgery, all these are used. What they found was that people that were addicted to opiates, they studied them. People addicted to opiates, heroin addicts, oxycodone addicts, all that had a decreased tolerance. In other words, things were more painful to them than people who were not. This is before they even looked at the medical uses of opiates. All right. All right. So in the clinical context, here's this. It says in the clinical context, meaning, a doctor is looking at you or whatever. The first evidence of OIH opioid induced hyperalgesia came from studies of opioid addicts, which clearly demonstrated that such persons had lower pain thresholds than unaddicted persons. And then they did the standard placebo-controlled prospective volunteer studies where they got people that volunteer, they had nothing wrong with them, and they wanted to see if what would happen if they gave them opiates and with their pain. And they measured the pain. They had both objective and subjective ways of measuring the pain. And anyway, again, they showed it. Now, one of the reasons that they think this happens is because there are these chemicals produced by the spine called spinal dynorphins. Dynorphins, yeah. Okay. And when you take opiates, whether it's injected or swallowed or whatever, it increases spinal dynorphins. And this increase, in turn, mediates the release of spinal excitatory neuropeptides. What does that mean? Excitatory means it makes them move quickly and they're neuropeptides. So basically, what they're saying is it's the upregulation of nociceptive pathways. So in other words, taking opiates increases your body's awareness and ability to detect pain. It's the opposite if you want. And what they found is if you gave someone I don't know if you know this, but if you go in the hospital and you're unconscious, they don't know what's wrong with you. They're going to give you two things in the emergency room. They're going to give you glucose in case you took too much insulin, or you took insulin and you're busy and forgot to eat. So they're going to give you glucose, and they're also going to give you something called naltrexone. Naltrexone is an opiate antagonist. It binds to the opiate receptor and doesn't let it do anything. And then it blocks the opiate from connecting, so you don't get the analgesia. So if someone comes in if they had a heroin overdose or opiate overdose, and you give them naltrexone, they wake up immediately. Yeah. So they use naltrexone with these people who were getting opioid-induced hyperalgesia, and they didn't get it. All right, so that blocked it. Okay, now here's the reason this is being looked into is because what they found was in the surgical literature was that the use of opioid reducing anesthetic techniques in the perioperative phase, means around when they are doing operations to take out tumors, that the opiate use during the post-operative period. So you went in, you had your breast removed. You went in, you had your pancreas removed. You went in, you had a colon tumor removed. Okay, whatever. And then they give you opiates. They found that you had a significantly higher chance of recurrence of the tumor. If you got opiates during the perioperative, post-operative time, you had a higher chance of having recurrence. Okay, I'm not making this up. Okay, this was in the Annals of Analgesia, of Anesthesiology, 2019. And they found that what did they have? They said frequently associated with the recurrence of certain malignancies, including breast, prostate, lung, and other adenocarcinomas. And what they used quantitative polymerase chain reaction of freshly isolated human natural killer cells, revealed expression of mu, kappa, and delta, and orphanin opioid receptors, as well as toll-like receptors 4. In other words, they know what they're talking about. They did. Okay. All right. They also said that the around the surgery, peri means around, perioperative period, the opioid use because of the immunosuppression of killing the natural killer cells and other ones. They found an increase of herpes as well as increased recurrence of malignancies. And they studied this with morphine and methadone and all the different ones. Anyway, I'm not going to do too much more with this, but I just want you to know something that the reason I was saying that to you, whatever you say, has opiates saved lives or pain? I don't know. I know that if you're in a lot of pain, they give you a shot of morphine. You go, oh yeah, it's better. Okay. The problem, what I'm saying is, in a day or two, it's not going to help. You're going to need more and more and more and more. It's not going to help. But now you're going to be addicted, and things are going to be more painful, and it paralyzes your gut. You get constipated, and you cannot have a bowel movement. And you don't. Therefore, it's not just the lower part of the bowel; it's the whole bowel, and you're not digesting and assimilating food. So you're going to get malnourished. Yes, yes, yes. And it suppresses natural killer cells. And there is research. Okay, so I don't say things that are not true. Why would I? Why would I say such a thing? First of all, I mean, can you imagine if I? How would I think? Let me make something up. Let me see. I'm going to say that opiates. Well, okay. Uh, anyway, at the end of this study, it says that they weren't sure exactly how it happened. They said the decreased function of the natural killer cells could occur in response to opioid binding directly to the opioid receptor, interacting with another non-opioid receptor, inhibiting the hypothalamic pituitary axis, or in a combination of mechanisms. But in the end, they said our data provide further evidence that opioids inhibit natural killer cells directly. And they also found that they wipe out T cells, monocytes, and macrophages. All right, so it's true. Sorry for telling you the truth, but that's what I'm going to keep doing. All right. And I'm sorry if you like to eat stuff that we're not designed to eat. And I'm going to tell you about it. And if you don't want to hear about it, then go hang out with Joseph Mercola. All right, because he's all for it. All right. Why do people advocate what they advocate usually? Because it. Okay, I have sorry, TikTok. I had to, they make me. What the. I had to move a jigsaw puzzle. Sorry, I don't know what you missed on TikTok, but I was just saying that if I offend people because I tell the truth, then don't listen. Go somewhere else. If you want to hear lies, go somewhere else. I'm not going to lie. I'm only going to tell the truth. And ask me. Don't sit there and complain. Ask me. That's why I join these groups. Ask me. All right, Lodi, you said this. Prove it. I will. So, because when we're on a Zoom, I can share the screen. I'll show you the studies. I don't make this stuff up because I wouldn't have time. I don't want to. Life's much more precious than me trying to make up bullshit stories. Okay. All right. So, period. That's what opiates do. All right. So I like to use, in terms of pharmaceuticals, drugs, I would use a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen, ketorolac injection. Because usually a lot of pain is a consequence of inflammation. and get people off of opiates, which is great, so that their guts will work, they won't be constipated, and all that. And I know from a personal life experience what opioids do. My father was 94 years old about 3 years ago. This happened. I mean, yeah, he was frail, but I mean, completely with it. 94. I mean, I talked to him. It was like talking to him when he was 40 years old. He was like a regular, no difference, healthy guy. Anyway, but because he had been a printer his life, working with the printing presses, getting bending and getting up and down, getting up. His knees were like had a lot of osteoarthritis, which is wear and tear arthritis, and it was, I guess, very painful. And they put him on opiates. I don't know, oxycodone or whatever. And he's over there in the U.S. I'm over here, and he's telling me I haven't been able to, have a bowel movement for like 2 weeks now. And it went on and on. Like, got to get you the. I called up. I tried to find people in where he was to get colon hydrotherapy and stuff like that. And uh, anyway, he wound up in the hospital and died. What did he die from? He died from constipation. He died from constipation. From opiates, because the guy was healthy. He had nothing wrong. He had no heart problems. He had no CFCs. He was fine. And that's not why I looked into it. I mean, that just happened, but I already knew this. I'm not, and that's why I was freaked out. I wanted him to get off it. But I'm just saying, I saw it happen. But anyway, but there's data. So we read out the data. And, here's the thing. If you don't like it, and if you think, okay, you listen, do whatever you need to do to be happy. That's okay. I'm just going to do what I do. What makes me happy is finding out stuff that's true and sharing it. Yeah, that's what makes me happy. I love it. So I'm going to keep doing that. All right, so let's go to some questions here. This is from Leslie. So can you tell me why this happens? Okay, I had a bad heart palpitations. So the doctor wanted me to take beta blockers, but I didn't take, because I've never taken anything. I started taking ivermectin and Fenben sometimes. Pros. I don't know if you mean praziquantel. 2 times a day. And 2 months later, my heart palpitations went away and no more symptoms whatsoever. And then I quit for 2 weeks and they started coming back. So I began to take it again, and it took taking it twice a day for a month straight to make it go away again. So now I've been taking it for 2 years, mostly every day. I might take 3 to 5 days off a month. And when I try to go off of it for 2 weeks, it comes back. I can't stop taking it. So I'm curious, why am I getting heart palpitations if I stop taking ivermectin and fenbendazole? Any answer? Well, yeah, I think, I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but I don't I'm not sure, but I may have mentioned to you, by the way, I had a really wonderful podcast with Dr. Emma Brahmayan, the biological dentist that I always talk about, who's in California and who's the best. Anyway, great, and that'll be available. That should be available hopefully this week. Are we? What day are we? Okay, you're Sunday. Okay, so this coming week it should be available. I hope. Yeah. Anyway, watch it. It's on biological dentistry. And she's talking about root canals, cavitations, and other dental infections and their effect on our body. And then she also talks about how do we take care of our mouths. What's a good routine to take care of our mouths? So watch that. Okay. But anyway, so what I wanted to say was you all know about dental meridians. I hope you know that. So meridians are in our body are circuits, right? Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen light go out. You put in one fuse, and you can put back on the lights, right? Okay, that's a circuit. All right, and there's all kinds of circuits. So we have like 100 trillion cells, 60 trillion cells, whatever, and they're all connected by different ways. We have different circuits. Anyway, these what they call them meridians all come through they start with the teeth, because the teeth is the top of the spine. It's really important. It's the first cervical vertebra, the bite and all that. So each tooth is associated with a group of organs that it connects to. Well, the wisdom teeth are connected to the heart and small intestines mainly. And for some reason, in this country, I mean, in America, when you turn 18, if you haven't had your wisdom teeth out, you've got to go get them out. But a lot of people are having problems because they're growing sideways. Why? Oh, because we're not eating human food. Yeah, that's why. So we don't have masseters. We don't have big enough jaws. Yes, yes, yes. We should be chewing and grinding all the time, and not just go. Okay. Anyway, so most people have had them extracted, and the problem is that when a regular dentist extracts, they don't take out the periodontal ligament, and they just let the gums close up, and you get microorganisms go in there. They go right through that periodontal ligament into the bone, into the jaw, and they set up camp. It's called cavitation. It's also called, jawbone osteonecrosis or fatty degeneration osteonecrosis. There's different names for it. But it knocks out that meridian. Now, also, no matter where the root canal is or the cavitation or what, when we're working with biological dentists all over the country and world, when they take out, when they clean out something or whatever, clean out a root canal or whatever, and they take the pus and they send it for DNA analysis, I would say, now Dr. Emma says 70%, but I mean, I've only seen very, very few not. In fact, maybe only 2 people. Of course, I haven't been doing it as long, but that don't have parasites in their mouths. So what I'm thinking, Leslie, is that if you had your wisdom teeth removed or didn't, and you need to go get a cone beam, a 3D cone beam CT of your jaw, and you should go to, if you're you got to get a biological dentist. And the way you know you got a biological dentist is when you look at their website, go under services, and if they put in root canals, they're not a biological dentist. If they fix root canals, they're not a biological dentist. If they remove them, great. If they use ozone, they don't have to use laser, but they have to use ozone, and they have to use your platelet-rich fibrin. Very important. And they use no metals at all, not even for implants, not even titanium. And they do biocompatibility testing. They take your blood and they send it off, and they get it tested. So that's the whole thing. And it's called the International Organization of no, it's it's oral medicine and toxicology. Oral medicine and toxicology. So it's IOMAT, International Organization Oral Medicine and Toxicology. Anyway, they should be certified by that, but they should also, and if they should remove, if they're going to remove mercury, which is so toxic, I mean, under it just falls. It's right beneath the uranium. They have a procedure called SMART. It's a basic procedure that they teach for you, the safe removal of mercury. Because if you don't, I had a person not about a week ago or 2 whose life was destroyed because they took out the mercury the wrong way. Went to her brain and all. You got to remove it the right way. You can't just go to anybody and have them drill, because you'll inhale the when it gets aerosolized, you'll swallow it and you'll be in big trouble. All right. So what I think's happening, Leslie, and the reason you take the ivermectin is it calms down those parasites that are probably in your jaw. That's just my thought. I mean, in your jaw, because you've got wisdom teeth. That's all I can think of. Now, other than that, parasites don't usually live in hearts. They live in other organs. But they might too, because we know that dogs can get what they call heartworms, and so I mean, when a parasite migrates, it doesn't care. It goes into um, any cell wall, tissue, any place you can get in to hide, and it's there. And usually you can tell if you're getting x-rays or ultrasounds or anything for any other reason, and they see, oh, by the way, you got a couple cysts on your kidney. Okay, doctor, what's a cyst? Yeah, but what is it? But I mean, why do I have cysts? How do I? Anyway, cysts. Until proven otherwise, I'm going to say are parasites. So anyway, could you have them in your heart? Yes. And they could be messing around with the electrical system. But listen, the fact that you're taking ivermectin and fenbendazole is actually pretty cool, because they both kill CFC stem cells. They both really prevent CFCs from forming. So it's not such a bad thing. It's certainly better than a beta blocker, yeah. But still, we got to figure out what's going on. So I would do that. I would, if you get the CT of your mouth, 3-dimensional, 3D cone beam CT of your jaws, and everything's fine, then what I'd say is we got to up your antiparasitic to higher doses, like ivermectin 12 milligrams 3 times a day, fenbendazole 222 milligrams 3 times a day. I would add in niclosamide 500 milligrams 3 times a day, and then I would add in at least tinidazole 100 milligrams 3 times a day for the protozoa, and then an antifungal. All right. Now, okay, wait, there was another question there. Yeah, where is that? There was another question from last. Where did I put it? I don't know. Okay, this is from Margaret. I'd like to get your advice about my treatments. My colonoscopy and biopsy showed ulcerative colitis at the beginning of January. I was on prednisone and Remicade. That didn't work. Since March 5th, the doctors put me on infliximab, and I'm still on prednisone. Since then, I feel better. However, 2 weeks ago, colonoscopy showed that I still have inflammation. Beside it, I go to the bathroom so many times, diarrhea with blood, and pain in my abdomen. Iron is low. I have anemia. I assume a raw diet, juicing, water, fasting would not be recommended in this case. I really struggle to find a proper diet. Are there any supplements, medications, natural remedies, or special diet that I should explore to help improve my recovery process? Okay, with gratitude, Margaret. All right, Margaret. Well, fortunately, you're wrong about the diet. diet is not everything, but close. Okay, look at the think of the body as and you know this. Think of your body as having X amount of energy. It's a finite amount of energy, and that energy's got to be shared. The brain, the immune system, the heart. All the different organs are sharing it. So there's a certain proportion that is given to the GI system, gastrointestinal system, and so it's there to, when the food comes in, to break it down, digest it, and then absorb it, digest it properly, absorb it, and then assimilate it. Now, whenever the body is not engaging in activities that it was designed to do, for example, liver cells were designed to do liver stuff, detoxify. Um, you know, brain cells were designed to do what they do. So anyway, when a cell's not engaging in its activity, it's cleaning house. That's what it does. It cleans up. It gets rid of, eliminates intra inside the cell toxins and other stuff, and external. So so now, especially with the gastrointestinal system, this is why not eating is equally as important as eating. And so if you're eating, okay, eat for what? To replenish either a nutrient or energy deficit. That's why we eat and drink. That doesn't take long, and it doesn't take much to do that, to accomplish that. So the rest of the time when you're not eating, it's cleaning up, it's repairing itself, and it's resting. So the more you eat, the less time your body has to your gastrointestinal system has to take care of itself. So as it turns out, with ulcerative colitis, by the way, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease are both considered inflammatory bowel disease. They give them different names because when they do a biopsy and they look at it under the microscope, they see things that distinguish them somewhat. But it's inflammatory bowel problems. The bowel is inflamed. Now, there was a study, I've mentioned it many times, by Dr. Luigi Fontana. He's an MD, PhD, and it was at Washington University in St. Louis, where he looked at a cohort of people 18 to 80 who had been 100% eating uncooked food for at least 3.5 years. And the other group ate normally. And he just did all these different blood tests, wanted to see what was the difference, bone density, and everything. The thing that stuck out in my mind is that the people that ate the uncooked food had undetectable CRPs. What is CRP? It's a protein produced by the liver, which is a biomarker for system-wide inflammation. So meaning that eating the uncooked food, they wound up not having any inflammation. Why is that? Because cooked food is no longer what nature produced. It is therefore artificial. And when the body encounters anything artificial, it develops an immune response. And then how does healing take place? Healing is an inflammatory response. So there's acute inflammation, red, hot, swollen, painful because I banged my finger. In a few days, it's back to normal. That's how it heals. Chronic inflammation is a different story. It causes problems. So as it turns out, these guys, um, um, the, the people that ate the uncooked food did not have any inflammation. So Now, regarding ulcerative colitis specifically, all right, there was, it's crazy the way the tests they do. I mean, listen, what I what I just said just makes intuitive sense. Do you realize something? If you sprain your ankle, right? You know you're not going to go jogging. You know you're not going to go on long walks. You know that. No one has to tell you. Um, so what's the best way to deal with a sprained ankle? Nothing. Sit down, put it elevated, and do nothing so it can heal. Oh, if I do nothing, it's going to heal? Yes. Don't make it work. Let it heal. Let it use its energy to heal rather than to work. Huh. Well, is that true of our internal organs? I mean, okay, I get it with the foot. I get it with the if I broke my arm, I had a tennis elbow or a ligament on my knee. But what about our internal organs? Well, glad you asked, because there's one condition and one condition only in which the witches and warlocks in the House of Horrors. Oh, did I say that again? Oh my God. Why did I say that? Because it's true. Um, they recommend fasting, not only require it. And when is that? That's when the pancreas gets so inflamed. Now, the pancreas, remember, is a digestive organ. So it's producing digestive enzymes. So when it gets inflamed, it starts leaking those digestive enzymes and you start digesting yourself. And that hurts. It's extremely painful. So they can't expedite healing. Healing is innate. It's an innate quality of a biological being. So what do? What is the only way? How do they enhance? How do they allow it to heal? By not letting it work. Okay. How do you do that with the pancreas? Don't eat. So they recommend not only water fasting, but they put them on chips and they give them their fluid through the IV so that they remain well hydrated, and they do the chips just to keep their mouth wet. And that not engaging the pancreas allows it to heal from a very painful inflammatory pancreatitis to health. That is the treatment. The treatment is doing nothing. Okay. So, yes, fasting does work for internal organs, bones, ligament, doesn't matter. Why? Because fasting allows healing. And the only way you can rest your digestive system, which is your colon, is by not feeding it. All right. So the uh okay. So they okay. They always choose Ramadan to do their studies. Now, as you may or may not know, Ramadan is a holy month for the Muslim religion, where they fast for a month. That's what they say. They don't fast for a month. They eat only when the sun goes down. They can't eat when the sun's up, or drink for that matter, which they call dry fasting. Um, which, by the way, is not healthy. Um, I know people think it is. I know. Okay. Um, so they use Ramadan, right? And they found that there was even some improvement just because they ate less. But here's the problem with Ramadan, because I know a lot of people that are the Muslim, um, and they don't eat until sundown, and then they eat like crazy. Well, that would be the same thing as if I went to bed at 6 p.m. and I woke up at I went to bed, let's say at 9 p.m. and I woke up at what's a normal time? What people at 9 wake up at what time? What do people wake 7 o'clock? Anyway, all I gotta do is not eat until 9 again. If I got 12 hours, I didn't eat. So I go to bed at 9 and then again I start eating again about 9:30. So it's the same thing. And I eat all day. All right. But they like pig out. So they do a lot of damage. But let's say you took Ramadan seriously and you just had, I think the proper way to do it is I think they just have a date and some water or something. It's very light. That would be not a fast, but because fasting, remember, is 24 hours without food, without nutrient, in a liquid or solid form, doesn't matter, or even yeah. So now, and so even with that, they saw improvement. However, what they did was they call it intermittent fasting, which is again that drives me crazy. Uh, Now they're calling it time restricted eating. Why do they have to call it anything? Why give it a name and then an acronym? Well, oh, so you don't have to think. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Thinking, not cool. Not cool. So intermittent fasting means what? Well, if we define a fast that's 24 hours without nutrient intake, then intermittent fasting would mean like, well, I fast on Mondays and Thursdays, or I fast one day a week, or like that. But to say I don't eat for 18 hours and then I eat during a 6 hour window, that's not intermittent fasting. That's healthy living. Eating once a day is fine if you're eating nutrient dense, real food. You don't need more than that. So, anyway, so they used intermittent fasting and then they did, which means they did time restricted eating, which means they didn't eat for a certain part of the day. And they called that, they think they were testing. But anyway, even with that, they found improvement. Why did they find improvement? Because when you don't eat, you rest. Okay. Now, well, don't I have to do something to help it? No, it knows how to heal itself, and you can't heal it. There's nothing you can do that will make it heal other than to be well rested. Hopefully, you're already well nourished, but get the toxins out, clean out the toxins. Maybe do an enema or get a colonic and just clean it all out, and drink lots of very good water until you're peeing and all that, and it will heal. Even doing a juice cleanse will make it heal. You know, so what I'm saying is that, uh, Margaret, it would help tremendously. Okay, now you could start out by doing a juice cleanse, which means that you're not going to eat anything solid. You're only going to drink fresh juice for uh, a week or two. You'll see a big change with that, a big change of what's going on with you. Um, and you can use celery, cucumber, kale, spinach, and anything else you want. Lemon and apple is what I do, and then you can put as much lemon and apple as you want to make it taste delicious. You want to love it, all right? Or if you want to add carrots and beets instead, or if you want to whatever, make it delicious. That's all. That's the most important thing. Okay. I mean, it's important that you love it so that it doesn't suppress your immune system. Ah, very good. That's very important. But anyway, you know what they said, and I was reading a study on this. One 2020 study in mice with colitis found that time restricted fasting and intermittent energy restriction stopped ulcerative colitis progression, reduced oxidative stress, and it increased gut. You know that one of they do with ulcerative colitis, they can do with fecal implants, and it goes away as well. Um, anyway, you know what their conclusion was? You want? I was what they found. They said the jury is still out on whether fasting and fasting mimicking might help people with IBD, and more research is needed. But they just, huh? But I mean, yeah, I mean, did I am I recalling that wrong? The what was it? Remember the Great Hoax of 2020? Um, and they wanted you to. Oh, that's right. They didn't have to do any research to find out if it was safe or not. Uh, and if you didn't do it, you lost your job and you couldn't travel. But we got to make sure this is really going to help. It does help. And the thing about the microbiota, it's so important. It's so important. It's everything. And by the way, you've got every microorganism that you need already living in there. They exist in colonies and subpopulations in different ratios due to what you're feeding it. And what are you feeding it? The same thing you're feeding you. Because remember, whatever you put in your mouth is in you. That's why people that eat corpses are, in effect, walking graveyards. No, is that not? What's a graveyard again? It's a place that contains corpses. Hmm. Oh, by the way, you know the animals that are killed? Because I mean, I know you don't have to tell me. I know that you've never eaten an animal who volunteered to be murdered. All right? Okay. Okay. So the animal's murdered, and then you eat its corpse, um, and it doesn't intend to, but it gets its revenge on you from the graveyard. And where's the graveyard? Your bowels. And that revenge is your body won't work as well as it used to. You know, oh my God, what is Lodi saying? It's true. I'll show you if you join that group, Health and Healing. We're going to talk about that stuff. Uh, why would I say it if it wasn't true? Can you tell me? By the way, you know what they call fasting mimicking diet? Because there's intermittent fasting, when I started, I was putting people on fast 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I've been doing fasting and working with people on fasting for at least 45 years, 50 years. And now, but I almost lost my license for that. And now everybody is a expert. It's ridiculous. They're not experts. So fasting mimicking diet, I don't know what they're talking about. It's not even time restricted. It's just eating less calories. So eating less calories actually help too. But wait a minute. Eating less is fasting? No, it's not. Does it mimic fasting? No. If I smoke 2 packs a day and now I'm only smoking a half a pack a day, am I mimicking a non-smoker? Am I mimicking a non-smoker? The answer is no. These guys, linguistic manipulation. Whoa. All right, let's go on. Um, all right, this is from Colin Precious, from Precious. I have general herpes, and you stated that taking a lysine. You never stated that it will cure it. Can you please tell me if L-lysine tablets are the only thing to take to cure herpes? What about parasite cleanse also? What exactly do I need to purchase? How much should I be taking? How long? All right, so uh, yeah, herpes is a problem, and people that have what they think are cold sores are really usually herpes, and so they used to distinguish herpes 1 from herpes 2, oral, genital, but then due to certain activities, you can get 2 on the 1 and 1 on the 2. Yep. Shh. We're not supposed to talk about that, right? Because we're all good, whatever, right? And good whatevers don't talk about that stuff. But it's necessary to continue the species. Shh, don't talk about it. It's not. It's not good. It's not nice. If you were good, you wouldn't talk about it, and you wouldn't think about it. Huh? Isn't it kind of like eating and going to the bathroom and stuff like that necessary? Yeah, but it's not necessary. You'll live long if you don't do it. Yeah, but then if we don't do it, nobody else will be alive. It's a species thing, right? What are you talking about? Shut up. Anyway, yeah. So we can wind up getting 1, 2, or 2. So there's really no distinction at this point. But you know what else is herpes? Chickenpox, Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, varicella zoster, which is chickenpox revisited. Yeah, you'd be surprised the herpes family. Now, that being said, I don't think viruses exist, so I don't know what we're talking about. But we're all talking about something. I'm just saying I don't know what it is. What is causing our body to produce these exosomes that are also associated with these things? They're painful outbreaks of blisters. You can get them anywhere. You can get rectally, orally. Yeah, they're a bummer. So what's the whole thing with lysine? Lysine, arginine, right? They're two basically amino acids. So arginine can stimulate the pathways and lysine can block it. Do you have to take lysine? Well, lysine is very helpful. Um, and there are antiviral programs if viruses exist. I'm telling you, this is the biggest dilemma I think of my mind. I can't, because I know that, I mean, there's just too much evidence that they do exist. Except that's why is that? But I'm thinking that because I already have considered that they exist. That's why I'm accepting the evidence. But anyway, um, ozone and vitamin C IVs. And what we used to do was, I mean, for really difficult and devastating viruses like the hepatitis C and B, and the people who were actively sick, we did like 3 weeks of intense ozone treatments daily, followed by 3 weeks of intense IV vitamin C. And we could make a lot of people negative. Now, remember that herpes comes out, whether it's genital or oral, when the immune system is somehow uh, uh, fatigued, too busy, too much work, overwhelmed. And considering that we now live in this wonderful, incredible technological world, we've never had it so good, and we're living longer than ever, and we're happier than ever, and our lives are just, so convenient. And anyway, but because of this fantastic life, we now have death towers all around us. They're not death towers. That's 5G. You know what that does. As soon as those go up, you're going to be able to download a movie within 1 minute. Okay, are they up yet? Yeah. How come I'm not downloading any faster? What are you asking these questions for? You shouldn't even be asking these questions. Okay. But you said 6 years ago that as soon as we get 5G, we're going to have it. Do you guys all realize what happened? We all said, I want to download fast. Right. Because why? So you can hurry up and do what? I don't know. Really. I don't know. I know most people here, especially if you're young, like if you're in your 20s, you think I'm like old school, completely old. Whatever the hell that means, old school. What is old? Where did that come from? Old school. What's new school? Oh, I know what new school is. That means everybody is completely vaccinated. They know how to use computers and calculators. So they can't spell and they can't add or subtract, but they don't need to because they can look anything up. And because they can look anything up at any time, they think they're really smart. What's this generation called? You got anybody know? What's it called? What's it called? Right? It's not Generation X or whatever. What is it? Are these the millennials? All right. All right. So millennials. Yeah, I know some millennials. Anyway, pretty much they think that how fantastic it all is. But anyway, what I'm going to tell you about these 5G things that are helping us download. I mean, I can't believe it. uh, I, I, how did I live without 5G? How did we live? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. How did we live without 5G? It's incredible. Um, anyway, you know what else? It's downloading. It's downloading, or should I say downgrading our immune systems. Oh, what's Lodi talking about? He doesn't know what he's talking. There's no proof. There's not only research, but I do lymphocyte subsets on people. And I do it on people that have CFCs and their spouses. Why their spouses? Because they don't have CFCs, but they live in the same place. And I just want to see how their immune systems look. And guess what? Oh, Generation Z, Gen Z, huh? All right, cool. Gen Z. Okay, so I do it on the partner as well, and they have pretty similar immune suppression. And then I find out where they live, and it's always in urban settings. By the way, remember the great hoax of 2020? Remember that? And that's what it was. So don't call it anything else. Um, and we all had to stay in our houses, right, or our apartments, right? We couldn't go out unless you want to get an abortion. I mean, there are certain things that are just absolutely required. So if you want to do that, you could do it. Other than that. If you want to go to church, you want to go to the temple, no. You want to go to a party, no. You want to go out and have coffee, no. All right. Anyway, it all made a lot of sense. I mean, and we wore a mask. You know that wearing the mask. Have you tell me something in America and wherever you guys are in Australia or Africa or Europe? Has there been an increase recently of mask wearing? Are people wearing masks again? I see on the streets. I have to ask them, why? Why are you wearing a mask? Most of them won't answer me, or they give me something, or they don't answer. People don't answer. Um, anyway, just in case you know of any mask wearers out there, if they're wearing it to protect themselves from invisible invisible enemies such as COVID or bird flu or whatever, um, keep in mind that viruses, if they do exist, are anywhere from like 50 to 100 nanometers. A nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. A meter is about 1 yard, 3 feet. Uh, the holes in the masks are micrometers. That means you can get 1,000 nanometers into 1 micrometer. So 1,000. Oh, but if they're 50, so I don't know. You can get at least 400 or 500 uh, viruses can go through every hole in the mask. All right, if they exist. So therefore, you're not doing anything. But what are you accomplishing when you wear a mask all day? And people wear it in their car. You're accomplishing pretty obvious things, like you're not getting enough oxygen. So it's a condition called hypoxia. And what is hypoxia? What is it associated with? Again, it's associated with, oh, that's right, CFCs. And then what else are you getting? Increased carbon dioxide. Why? Because it's kind of staying in the mask. Huh. What's carbon dioxide? The higher, oh, it increases acidity. Hmm. So acidity and low oxygen are, oh, that's right, the tumor microenvironment. I forgot. And then also, as you talk, whether you know it or not, your saliva is coming out and it lands in the mask. And these microorganisms are extremely prolific. They have a new generation every hour, which means that every hour you're having new generations of organisms that are mutating or whatever they're doing. And every time you breathe in, you breathe these guys in. So you have low oxygen, high carbon dioxide, you're breathing in a bacteria. And it's not keeping the dreaded invisible enemy out. So understand. So what been asking people lately, and uh, nobody's answered me. I don't understand it. Not one person has answered me. I asked them this: if the government told you that from now on, if you want to go outside of your house, you've got to insert a pencil into your rectum and keep it there until you get home, would you do it? Nobody answers me. Anyway, uh, okay, Jeannie. Jeannie, you tried to link to my name to message me, but you couldn't. Uh, are you on what, YouTube? Yeah, I don't know how that works. You can go to drlodi.com and go to hello at, or just go to hello at drlodi.com and tell them you'd like me to review that. And I will. I'll be happy to, Jeannie. Really happy to. So, and tell them that we need to talk also. Okay. And I keep, I'm sorry, but I hear the next question was, what would you recommend for squamous cell carcinoma. And yeah, so squamous cell carcinoma is basically it's carcinoma. And where is it? On squamous cells. So where are squamous cells? Skin, uh, mouth, and anus. Pretty much squamous. So that's where you can have it. So it depends on where it is. Um, and remember, the diagnosis is just a description of the tissue. It's called histology. It's a histological uh, diagnosis, a histological description. Histopathology. I don't see these words. It's absurd beyond absurd. Anyway, same thing you do for everything, and that is you got to clean up and what you got to do your biological dentistry. You got to do it, but all of that you got to take vitamin C, ADC, ADC, iodine, fix your thyroid, and melatonin, antiparasitics, and all that. However, now if when chronically fermenting cells are accessible, like they're on your skin, the rectum is accessible, mouth, throat, those are accessible. Breast tumors are accessible. Melanomas are accessible. Things that are accessible. Cervical is accessible. Anything you can get to, then you can put stuff on it, like hydrogen peroxide, like ozone, like iodine, like bicarbonate. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Mistletoe. So it depends on where it is and all that. You went to hello email, but no reply. All right, so um, that's a good idea, Kathy. Yeah, do that. Do that, Jenny. What's wrong with hello? I'll have to ask my team because they're supposed to, I'm working on fixing all this stuff, you guys. So can we get mistletoe over the counter? Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, because it's not the Fraud and Death Association doesn't recognize it, so they won't. They wouldn't control something they don't recognize. Um, anyway, so let me go back because I've got to answer some questions. I always feel bad. It's a lump in the neck. Okay, that means probably the lymph node is probably was on the tongue or the throat, the pharynx or larynx. Um, all right, so well then we've got to really you got to find out biological dentistry. I mean, if you're anywhere near California, and that includes New York, Europe. Anyway, just go see Dr. Emma Abramayan in Glendale. Make um, Dr. Emma DDS at Gmail. Go see her. Make sure that's it, because um, and remember, the squamous cell just means it started in a squamous cell instead of a gland. If it started on a gland, they'd call it adenocarcinoma. Okay, these are not. It's not. That's all it means. Okay, so I have to find out where are these questions again. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Um, now I want to go down to a little bit of. I'm sorry, I got to skip all this. Oh, by the way, this is Lisa and Morgellons. Please tell me your opinion on Morgellons, Lyme, and lupus. They all seem to have the same symptoms. I have something going on with my skin and no doctors can give me any help, please. And thank you in advance. Okay. All right. All, all, all diseases, or I mean, n- there are no diseases. Okay. Now, does Morgellons exist? Absolutely. What is it? Probably a combination of technology and biology. I think it's synthetic biology, and it comes in the form of, you know, filaments and stuff. It comes out of the skin. It's a real deal. It's a real deal. And where does it come from? I don't know. We don't know, but we can take a guess. I don't. Now, limes. What is lime? Lime is from a spirochete, uh, which is a bacteria that lives inside of cells, uh, like syphilis, and it's been modified. And the other word for modified is, what is that word again? Oh, weaponized. Yeah, and lupus stands for systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE, but they just call it lupus. And the reason they call it lupus is because sometimes the people that get the skin reaction to it get red, uh, like a butterfly rash. And someone thought that looked like a wolf. And as you know, the genre for wolves is lupus, or I don't know the full Latin name. And they're saying that lupus is an autoimmune condition, meaning the body is really stupid and it attacked itself. It attacked itself. Now, this body was made by God, not by Frank down the street. This was made by God. God didn't make things that attack itself. Sorry, medical profession. Um, anyway, so you're right. These are completely different situations producing this very similar manifestations. So you have some, Lisa, you have something going on with your skin. Without seeing it and getting a little more detail about what's going on with you, I don't know how to help you. But by the way, for Morgellons, there is something called SSKI, which is saturated solution of potassium iodide, and you apply it topically, and it works quite well. Limes is going to take a little more time and work and cleansing and all that sort of things. And same with lupus. Lupus just means that your body is detecting toxins that you're not aware of, whether they're biological toxins, alive or biotoxins, things produced by biological, or just chemicals. Um, and by the way, limes and the can and the Morgellons are also susceptible to frequencies, all right? Because everything is a frequency. So if you got the problem with the Morgellons is it's probably only half biology and the half synthetic, meaning so it's probably getting its energy from EMF. So you probably have to make sure you have a um, you can go online and buy, and everyone should. We should all start doing this. No, no, we should not. We should. We have to start doing this. Going online and getting Faraday cloth, make Faraday uh, curtains. If you live in a condo where you can't, if you live by yourself, then you unplug your Wi-Fi when you don't need it, which is at night at least. But if you live in a building where nobody else is going to do it, you have to get a Faraday put underneath your bed on the floor and around. Put a kind of like a wire, some kind of wire thing or wooden thing around you, and cover your bed so that you have Faraday protection. You sleep in a Faraday cage. So that's but the SSKI helps a lot with the Morgellons. And then the Lyme. So what I was saying with frequencies, you get a Rife frequency generator, and people were asking which is a good one because I was talking about it last week. Well, there's the Spooky 2, which is very good, and there's the GB 4000 are very good. I don't know about the other ones, but I know they're good. Now the problems with these is this: these are frequency generators, and you know almost any but smart electrician could develop a frequency generator. And that wasn't that what was so special about Raymond Royal Rife. What was special is that he had a microscope with quartz lenses that allowed him to see things up to 60,000 times magnification compared to a normal telescope microscope, which is only 2,500. But anyway, he saw things that we don't usually see. But because it was quartz, he was able to get the frequency. And when he got the frequency, he could send in the same frequency to that organism and it would explode, right? Because they double, they add up. So, frequencies, if you get the frequency of that Lyme, whatever it is, it'll be gone. That's the problem. So, yeah, you can get the right generators, but, and then they say that we got this from this is Rife's. No, nobody has Rife's notes. I'm telling you. Fishbein, there was a guy named Fishbein who was the president of the American Medical Association during those days. And he kind of orchestrated under the direction of the Rockefeller family to destroy Royal Raymond Rife. Why? Because he was right. Right? What do you mean, right? Well, he was given the ultimate test. He was given 16 people who had terminally ill CFCs. See what he could do. So he figured out their frequencies and he treated them for 3 minutes every 3 days, and all 16 were cured. It was gone. So that's kind of like 100%. So when you have 100%, you can't really attribute it to anything other than the truth. He knows what he's doing. So the poor guy had everything taken. Max Fishbein did that. They paid off other people. They did all kinds of. But they took all of his notes. They took his microscope. They took everything. They told me the microscope was in the Smithsonian. Yeah, so I went to the Smithsonian and they had no idea what I was talking about. So I think, it's just a hunch, that the microscope is probably sitting in the, I don't know, House of Rothschild, House of Orsini, House of Rockefeller. I don't know. But it's not in the Smithsonian. Believe me. So anyway, what you got to do now, since and I don't know why nobody's coming up with a way to determine frequencies. Everyone's putting out frequency generators. They're calling it a Rife machine. And so those are the ones I said are the Spooky 2 and the GB 4000. And they work really good because if you find the right frequency, they work. But you got to find it and you don't know. So usually they do what's called a sweep. You go over. So they say, okay, we've got the frequencies for Lyme. We've got the frequency. So, I mean, just know that it did not come from Rife. It may have come from their ability to. Wow, it's 9:13. It may have come from their ability to. They wanted to see clinically what happened. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So anyway, that's what we got to. Lisa, what I'm trying to say to you is that the Morgellons, I would do SSKI, the Lymes, you got to do. I would do ozone, vitamin C, do thorough cleansing, and then try to find Rife and have them figure out what your frequency is just by having you go through multiple that are in that range of. And once you start feeling kind of funky, it's called Herxheimer. You'll know that it's that will help. Really, that'll help. Stephanie, what is the dosage of ivermectin for treating CFCs? Well, okay, first of all, you want to do a parasite cleanse. You're going to use ivermectin and at least two other antihelminthics, fancy name for worms, and antiprotozoals, which are single cell organisms, and antifungals. Okay, and you're going to do 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And you can do that for at least 11 or 12 times. All right. And on the week off, you'll be taking things like milk thistle and alpha lipoic acid with B complex, or add a B complex, and perhaps even phosphatidylcholine to protect, make the liver stronger. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So, but because all those drugs together, they're all being cleared by the liver, and they just put a strain on it. That's all. It's not that they're dangerous or anything. I mean, imagine ivermectin is what they use for river blindness, and there are 250 million people in the world taking it for 10, 15 years now because they keep being exposed to the parasite. And I think that qualifies as a clinical trial. 250 million people for 10 to 15 years. I guess it's safe. All ages too. Yeah. So anyway, that's what you do. But once you finish cleaning out the parasite, then I would go down to 12 milligrams twice a day to kill the CFC stem cells. But I would also add mebendazole, at least 500 milligrams once a day, twice a day, and vitamin C, and of course, curcumin, all for the stem cells. Yeah. Wait, okay, this is Moni. I did the ivermectin prozaquatil fenbendazole combination for 3 weeks, and I'm in 1 week off period, and one have returned to going number 2 about 5 times a day, and have a lot of gas at night. Still super sensitive to lactose, beans, gluten, and most preservatives. Will I have to do this rest of my life to get comfort, or how many? Even the horse paste is getting too expensive. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, they're gonna do that. You got to kill the parasites. You've got to kill the parasites, money. Um, and the rest of your life. No, I think you're not doing enough. You can't just be using 2. You got to get at least 3. I'd get ivermectin. I'd add in either praziquantel 600 3 times a day, or niclosamide 500 3 times a day. And yeah, that's what I would do. And then you got to be taking either tinidazole or nitazoxanide, which is a linea for the protozoa, and then an antifungal like a fluconazole. And then do a cleanse, do some colon hydrotherapy, do a cleanse. And then when you do a juice cleanse, do 3 weeks of only juice, 5 weeks if you keep going. Remember, it's full of nutrition except for fiber and fat. Uh, so do that to clean everything out and all that, and to clean the water in your aquarium while you're taking this. You got to add more. Because if you undertreat them, they're going to just move to another organ. They migrate. You don't want to do that. Get rid of them. Don't worry. All right. So I hear you, Bonnie. Bonnie, do the same thing. Okay, Bonnie, do the same thing. Please uh, call the clinic, an Oasis of Healing in Arizona. Talk to Andy. Just tell him that you and I need to talk. Because yeah. All right. So now, Facebook. We're running out. We're running out of time. I know I just never get a chance because I talk too much. I'm sorry. Is mebendazole good for? This is Instagram. Is mebendazole good for ER breast CFC? Says yes. Mebendazole is actually very good. ER positive, ER negative, doesn't matter. Yes, 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 yes. And kills stem cells. Keto diet, methionine diet, vegan diet, so confused. I know. I know they all confuse it. Remember something. Dogs, cats, horses, sheep never go to seminars or read books on what to eat, and they do it perfectly. Okay. But then you can't get a dog to eat horse food, and you can't get a horse to eat dog food. Okay. So now, since we don't know what to eat because we were brought up not uh, allowed to access instinct, but rather to be a culturally appropriate uh, citizen, we've got to look at our closest relatives in the jungle, and it turns out that they are vegan. And they don't cook it either. It's not confusing. And don't worry about the methionine and the keto diet. If you eat the keto diet, in other words, I mean, no one's eating a ketogenic diet. Because I mean, if you're going to talk about ketogenic, then you're doing it for a purpose. That means you want to have more ketones than you do glucose. Well, that's hard. That means you have to have a ratio of less than 1.0, which is really hard. You got to do at least 2 days of fasting to keep it there. And you got to be eating 80% fat. And that's certainly not something you want to do if you're eating animal, unless you want to eat just the bacon fat. Um, so, um, but if you do that and you have CFCs, the CFCs, being as clever as they are going to say, well, there's no glucose. There is glucose, by the way. Anyway, they said no glucose. I'm going to start eating glutamine. And you can't get rid of glutamine because you need that for many, many things. Anyway, when I finally do it, we are designed to eat plants. And when we do, we blossom. And I know some people say, "But I felt so." You were probably a pastatarian or a breaditarian or something else. I don't know what you were eating, but if you're eating what you're designed for, you can't feel bad. So I don't know what you were eating, whoever you were and are. So if you're having problems with it, uh, I need to do a talk on eating. I mean, that turns out to be a big deal. How to measure healing progress for breast CFCs without harmful imaging? Well, first of all, how do you feel? Do you have energy? Are you sleeping well? Are you going to the bathroom? Uh, uh, how's your libido? How's your um, yeah? If you have a mass, is it going away? I mean, all that. But there are tests you can do. You can do in addition to tumor markers, which you don't know what they mean. You don't know if it's growing or shrinking. You can look at LDH, which is the enzyme necessary for CFCs to ferment. You can look at ferritin. If it's the ferritin to iron ratio should not be above 5 to 1. You can look at I don't know if you can get thymidine kinase. Um, yeah, fasting insulin levels, and then most importantly, you can look at your lymphocyte subset to find out if your immune system is strong. Because if it's strong, then you know it's going to work. Um, and you've got to make sure you got rid of all the toxins, and that you are now and you're waking up the immune system, right? So, but how do you measure it? You can use ultrasound, which is non-invasive, not harmful. Ultrasound can we can ultrasound your breast, we can ultrasound uh, your internal organs, like liver. Um, Now with bone, we can see bone metastasis because alkaline phosphatase will go up and certain things like that. But one of the things you would take to prevent bone metastasis and or help eliminate it would be doxycycline, 100 milligrams twice a day. Doxycycline, look it up. Doxycycline bone mets. Dr. Singh, Singh, Canada. I ran across this about the year 2000. Yeah, it's been. Um, can I recommend a practitioner to heal my 7-year-old daughter from arthritis. Okay, so she's got rheumatoid arthritis. She's being exposed. I just don't know any. There's got to be some out there, but because I've learned that the hard way for the poor people, that if someone brings their daughter or child, some minor to us, that they take the child away from the parents. So that's why we never worked with pediatrics. They would take them away from the parents and then force them into getting chemo or whatever. But in your situation, it's different. I know there are, but anyway, okay. So your daughter, there's I would look for parasites. I would look at dental. I would do a thorough cleanse. I would take a look at her immune system, lymphocyte subset. There's a lot of things I would do. I don't know. If you can get in touch with me, we can talk really, and I can give you some suggestions of what to do. Anyway, listen, folks, it's like way late. I'm really sorry I took all your time. So anyway, but that's because it was hard getting started. Anyway, Sawadee Kap, Kapa Makap, and Namaste, Namaskar, Aloha, and I'll see you all next week. And remember, go to the drlodi.com and sign up for the Inner Circles thing and get on that list. And let's get, because I think it's going to be great. I'm excited about it. It's going to be very good. We're going to be able to, finally get to doing some stuff that we need to do. Yeah. All right, y'all. See ya. There we go. And then, is this off? No. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Sawadee Kap.